Good afternoon, Morgan, and welcome back to the channel. Here we have episode 4. We start the disassembly of the subframe. In this sketch from conceptbunny.com, we can see the axle in the rear. We can see once I fade out the background, and that's what we're focused on today, to remove this rear subframe. So first things first, got to get the car back out again. If you want to have a look at episodes 1 to 3, you'll see the work we did on the front axle. Then I managed to get a bit of help and got to turn the ramp around, because the ramp has 2 large rams, and these rams are needed on the heavier side of the car. So because I'm driving the car in, I have to turn the ramp around. But lucky enough, it's pretty mobile. So once we've turned around, get the car in and up. And you can see on the left hand side, I've put a sketch of the subframe in to show you roughly where it is compared to the cutaway view. So what do we got to do to remove the subframe? First thing is to remove the air spring mounts and the air supply. Then the rear brake calipers have to come off, but we can leave them hanging. We need to disconnect the ABS wiring and the brake sensor wiring. We also need to take off the complete exhaust system. The drive shaft needs to be disconnected from the diff. There's also some wiring for the headlight level sensors. And we've got to pull the handbrake cables out, and I found it's easier to pull them from the lever end. Then we have the 4 main subframe bolts themselves. And don't forget to remove the wheels. Yeah, made a note for myself. Here we go, actually starting some work. Once the wheels are off, we can actually gain access to the different pieces that need to be disconnected. In the inside, we remove the boot floor, and then we can get these clamps off and a screw, and that removes this little panel behind the rear seats. Then the airbags, you can reach from the top. You can see here, even though I was prepared for it, I didn't like the evacuation of the pressure from the springs. These 2 plates here, I realized later that we don't actually need to remove them. They're only needed if you want to remove the damper top mount. So then take the brake calipers off, pretty straightforward. And I tied them up with a bungee, and then remove the ABS sensors. Same on the other side. And I may or may not have mirrored the same footage. So now we get this crusty exhaust off, and you can start to see the reality of 20 years of road use. Then disconnect the drive shaft bolts. It's actually the prop shaft from the differential flange. And then I wanted to make sure that the actual differential flange, it was the end of the drive shaft was actually free from the differential. Then just pop the silencer off, and here we can see a bit better view of the subframe and how it actually is connected to the car, and all the lovely dirt. Now we have to remove the exhaust brace, and once that's out, a one-man band. It's quite tricky to take the whole exhaust off when you're on your own, but you use an axle stand, and with the lift not being able to go too high, there was still enough room to get myself underneath. And then pull out the pin and basically drop the exhaust on myself. But with the exhaust out, you can start to see now how the subframe is constructed. So one-man band again, managed to get the whole exhaust out and thought I would do something funny, and then realised no, I don't want to hit the camera or the garage, so just get it out of the way. Years of dirt, but while you're in there, I think we'll try and tackle that. Heat shield off, and now we can see the drive shaft. And again, I'm looking at the guibo, I'm looking at the center bearing, thinking to myself, I might as well order these parts while I'm here, because if I put the whole car back together again and these need replaced, I ain't doing it. So Guibo center bearing going on to the parts list. Just a couple of nuts holding on the center mount bearing or center support bearing. And you'll see there's a bit of a jump between the drive shaft and suddenly now the subframe is completely out. So thanks to GoPro, I had some corrupt files and I lost some footage. So I've gone back to MS Paint and tried to describe what on earth happened between the drive shaft coming out and the subframe. So once the handbrake leak cables are pulled out of the chassis, they're pulled from the lever end, it more or less frees up the whole subframe, and Robert lent me his pallet truck, and raising the pallet truck up allowed me to remove the bolts, and then the subframe actually landed on the pallet, and lowering the pallet truck then allowed us to just basically slide out the subframe. So Robert kindly brought his pallet truck over, and I was so tired I just started messing about and yeah, making a bit of an arse of myself. So while I go and tidy up a bit, Robert's pulling the subframe out of the way for me, and that more or less ends the episode here. And now that we have the subframe out, the real work actually is going to begin, so stay tuned and you'll see the next few episodes. Quite an intense amount of work ahead of me, and I have to admit I didn't really think that I was going to do all this work, but while you're in there you might as well do it. So stay tuned for next week, see what mess we can make then. See you next time.